A new recording of the classic Lieber and Stoller song I'm a Woman is released today. It features Brian May on guitar, playing alongside female supergroup WOMAN. The aim is to create awareness of and to raise funds for breast and ovarian cancer charities, Target Ovarian Cancer, and the Karen Keating Foundation. Let's hear a tease of that new track now. What a wonderful sound, and my very first experience of being a disc jockey. Dr. Brian May, CBE, joins me now. Welcome to Times Radio. Are you there?
Thank you very much, Michael. I think your talents as a disc jockey are absolutely unquestionable.
You're wonderful to start in that way. You're a man of many causes. Why this track and why this cause now?
Well, this one's been cooking for a long time. Can you hear me okay? I'm getting dropouts from you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. Please continue, Brian.
Okay. Yeah, this has been going a long time. We actually recorded it 10 years ago when we were all a little younger. And it was always meant to be for breast cancer and for ovarian cancer, but it kind of got stalled along the way. And I don't really know why. I think everybody got busy with other things and we couldn't get support or whatever. So this year came around, Pinktober came around, and we thought, well, why the hell don't we do it? So we got it out and dusted it off and made a video in a huge warehouse with social distancing practices in place. And we've stuck it out. And I'm thrilled because it seems to be apparently number 6 in the rock charts after like only 3 hours or something. So I'm very thrilled, very thrilled.
Well, congratulations. I've seen the video, which is absolutely compelling. It's beautifully made, and you're in terrific form on the guitar, and the women are in terrific form as well. Now, how actually will it help these charities? Now that people go online to listen to the music, how does it actually help the charities?
Well, everything makes a little money. If I wondered this myself, because I'm not very adept at all this modern digital stuff. You know, I come from a different world. And I said, why are people able to go to YouTube and watch it for nothing? Why would they buy the record? And people said, well, actually, if they go to YouTube, it will make money for the charity anyway. This is on my channel, so I've made sure that happens. So every time somebody watches it on YouTube, it makes money, which will go into my YouTube account or whatever, and every penny will go directly to the charities. But then, of course, if you buy it online or if you stream it, it all makes more money. So some of it's about money. It's not just about money, though. It's about awareness. I think there's a big point to make here. Which is that people have been afraid to go to hospitals recently because of the COVID stuff, the whole situation. And the big message that I have to get out there is do go. If you have any question, do go and get screened. You can do this. And I have to say, I've been involved in heart attack territory for the last few months. And the message is the same there. If you have a question about your heart, do not delay. Go to your local hospital. Make sure you get seen. And hopefully you'll end up at Harefield and your life will be saved. So that's my message, really, Michael.
I read about your experience and I want to wish you the very best of health. And
Thank you.
I hope that everything is being taken care of in the best possible way. And I don't mean to pry, but do you have a strong connection with breast and ovarian cancer?
No, not really. It's the girls. The girls have driven this, particularly Maz Murray, who's a very old friend of ours and was our fantastic killer queen in We Will Rock You in the West End for years and years and years. She's an absolute stalwart kind of rock theatre chick. And one of her best friends, Rebecca Gibbs, died from this horrible disease. And we started off with breast cancer 10 years ago. So that's what started this whole thing off. And this record is dedicated to her. We have a hashtag Gorge, Gorge being her famous favourite phrase. So, that's where it comes from.
There's a quiz show on television, isn't there, where if you mention a certain word, if you get the answer wrong, lights start flashing and hooters start going off. And you have mentioned We Will Rock You, and that has sent the hooters sounding here and the lights flashing. We Will Rock You. We Will Rock You, performed by Queen, written by Brian May.
Indeed.
Indeed. You are an astrophysicist. You've completed your PhD. Just mention to us what your subject was in your PhD.
My subject is the motions of interplanetary dust, and I studied them. I studied their radial velocities, looking at Doppler shifts in the spectrum of their of the light that we see them in, which is reflected sunlight. It sounds a bit technical, but basically it's just finding out what dust is doing in our solar system, where it was coming from, where it's going to. And it was it was an interesting subject in those days. It became a backwater for about 30 years. But luckily, when we discovered exoplanets, we discovered there were exo dust clouds as well. So my subject became trendy again, just as I was coming back. So 30 years later, I did go back to Imperial College, studied for a year, and got my PhD.
Because you had started this work before your musical career took off, and then you went back to it decades later.
Yeah, it's a pretty unusual history, yeah, but it made me very happy, and it continues to make me happy because I can kind of straddle different worlds, and I can bring stuff to those worlds because of what I am, I think. I'm an unusual animal, I suppose.
You are in some ways, although it struck me that there were lots of people in rock music who were maybe not quite as intellectual as you, but there were lots who were very clever. And I'm just wondering, when you were on the rock scene, and we associate rock and roll with kind of girls and drugs and all the rest of it, were there times when you and other bright musicians got together and talked about things like astrophysics or philosophy or psychology or whatever?
But of course, people come to rock music from all sorts of directions. So it's a very rich kind of fertile ground. And a lot of rock stars are very bright. I mean, I wouldn't count myself necessarily, but there are some very clever people, And likewise, if you talk to the top astrophysicists and the top people in NASA who are mounting these wonderful expeditions, unmanned expeditions into the solar system, most of them, I would actually go as far as to say most of them are rock fans, and some of them very serious rock fans. Like Matt Taylor, who's the PI of the Rosetta mission, who went to this beautiful comet and photographed it. He's well, I was going to say addicted. He's the most affiliated to heavy metal music I've ever met in my life. He's got tattoos all over his body. He's got Einstein next to Lemmy, and it's strange that the two worlds do seem to cross-pollinate for some reason.
Brian, we lost a tiny bit of what you said there. Would you mind just repeating, if you told me whether you found that there was time while you were on tour to have some interesting intellectual conversation with your other musicians?
Yeah, we had lots of conversations about all kinds of things. Yeah, I mean, my group are all pretty bright anyway.
Yes.
John Deacon's first class honours graduate in electronics. Roger, biology and medicine. Freddie, graphic design at what was then Ealing Tech. None of them are slouches, but we all had this passion for music. And that kind of doesn't stop you being interested in the world at large. It doesn't stop you being a human being. In fact, it's a help because we get to see so much going around the world. We get to experience different cultures, much as you do, possibly going around on the railways.
Well, thank you for even knowing about that. But it's interesting because, I mean, all the examples you've given there, you were people who, had your musical careers not taken off in the way that they did, would have had successful careers doing something else. And indeed, I expect many of you have more than one iron in the fire because your range of interests is extraordinary. So, I mean, one can be pretty confident of that, can one not? That had you not made it in the musical business, you would nonetheless have been successful in your own fields, not just you, but the others.
Well, I don't think you can take it for granted. I didn't think I was a very good student of astronomy at the time. I did not manage to get to the point where I could get my thesis accepted. And I got very discouraged and just thought, I'm not cut out for this. And I thought astronomy is going to be better off if I leave it and go off and be a pop star, as my dad would have put it, as he did put it. So, I don't think you can take it for lucky. My trajectory through, and I was able to curve all the way around after having been around the world as a rock star, to come back to astrophysics, which I have to say I love, I always have done. And I'm sure I always will love music and astrophysics equally, and many other things as well, as you remarked.
Brian may stay with me as I just make this announcement. This is Michael Portillo on Times Radio. With great rail journeys, visit greatrail.com. Brian May, another subject I wanted to discuss with you was stereophotography. First of all, First of all, do you want to explain what it is? And secondly, tell us why you're interested in it.
Well, it's not too hard to explain these days because everybody's seen Avatar and most people saw it in 3D. So stereophotography is 3D, basically, three-dimensional photography. And it goes back almost exactly to 1832 when Charles Wheatstone discovered the principle. The principle of stereopsis being that if you combine two images which are taken from a short distance apart, which is called the baseline, and you make sure that the left image goes to the left eye and the right image goes to the right eye, you get this stereoscopic effect, which means you get the feeling of reality when you're looking at the picture instead of it being flat. So it's always amazing to me that no one, including Leonardo da Vinci, actually twigged that this would be the case. But if you look at evolution, you realize that we have two eyes instead of one for a very good reason, because it gives us an enormous amount more information about what is around us in terms of what's going to eat us and what we can eat, apart from everything else. So it's very strange that we've become so used to flat pictures in books and on screens and on TVs. What we really need is the three-dimensional experience, the in-depth experience. So that's what stereophotography is. It gives you that experience.
1832 was long before the publication of the first photograph or even daguerreotype. How was it
Absolutely.
possible? How was that possible then to make that discovery before photography had been invented?
Yes, well spotted. It's right, well before photography. Well, Charles Wheatstone figured out the principle and he made drawings using a thing which is a camera lucida, which was something you don't know about these days, or not many people know about, but it's a way of looking through and tracing an image from a particular viewpoint. So he traced his image of certain things from different viewpoints and tested the principle. So, for instance, one of his drawings was a cube viewed from a certain position, and then it's like you move your position a few inches to the right and draw it again, and you get your stereo pair of pictures. So when photography was invented, he must have been very thrilled because he went to Louis Daguerre, he went to Fox Talbot and said, make me some stereoscopic pictures that I can put in my stereoscope. And they did. So it's an extraordinary story, which has never really been told. So we plan to tell it pretty soon in a book.
Oh, you do. You're planning a book. And have you become a collector? Have you collected early devices?
Oh yes, I'm an incurable collector. Yes, ever since I was at college, and I used to have to walk past Christie's every day, the auctioneers, and I used to go in and look at the stereo cards, which I couldn't afford to buy, but I could view. I've been absolutely bitten with the stereoscopic thing. I mean, it goes back to my childhood because I managed to make stereo pictures when I was about 10 years old, having figured it out from those little cards that you used to get in Weetabix packets. I don't know if you go back that far.
Yes,
Michael.
I do.
So, yeah, and yes, I've collected thousands and thousands of stereo cars, stereo daguerreotypes, viewers of various kinds, cameras. And what I'm trying to do now is make sure that they go to the right place when I leave this planet, as probably, I'm not planning to right away, but obviously eventually I will have to go. So what I've done is founded something called the London Stereoscopic Archive, and I'm hoping that that will survive me, and it will be the greatest collection of stereoscopic material, certainly in England, possibly in the world.
As a 10-year-old, you were making these stereoscopic images. How on earth did you do that?
Well, it's very easy once you know how. I had a tiny little VP twin camera from Woolworths, which cost exactly 2 and 6pence in those days. And I put it on a table, took a picture of the view, slid the thing a few inches to the right and took another view. And that was my stereo pair. I printed them out, mounted them on a piece of cardboard and put them in the Weetabix viewer. And there it was, in glorious 3D. And I got my dad to take a picture of me on my bike, which it's in my book. If you get the Queen in 3D book, my early history is in there, and you can see some of the pictures I took when I was a kid.
But how did you know how many inches it should be to the left?
Well, it doesn't matter really. You start off with the distance apart of your eyes. That's generally going to give you the most realistic effect. But you actually can't go too far wrong because if you have too small a distance, you just get a bit of a less effect. If you increase the distance, so maybe take two pictures a foot apart, you'll get an exaggerated stereo effect, which is sometimes very nice. I could go on about this all night, Michael. You realise you've tapped a vein here.
No, I'm absolutely fascinated. And you talk about effects because this is an illusion, isn't it? It's simply an illusion. While we wait to re-establish the line, here's another Queen track, Flash.
Yeah, I had great fun mixing that.
The line went down for a moment there, so we took the opportunity to play Flash. That's another one that you wrote, and it immediately brought to me visions of Brian Blessed. Is that right?
Indeed. Gordon's alive! Yes, you can hear him from here.
Splendid stuff. No, so I was just saying that the images that you make, these stereoscopic images, it is simply an illusion. It's just a trick that's played on the eye, is it?
It's not really an illusion, no. It's recreating the experience that we have every second of our lives, if we're lucky enough to have two eyes and have stereopsis, as it's called. If our brains are able to combine those images. No, it's not an illusion. It's strange, because, that's a very popular view of what 3D is. It's just an illusion, it's just a trick. And stereoscopic photography has been very much regarded as the poor relation of normal flat photography. But I think that's a very serious mistake. I think some of the greatest works of photography have been stereoscopic. So that's been a kind of crusade of mine over the years.
And you bring your crusades together, because I have in my hands here a book called Cosmic Clouds, 3D, where stars are born. And this is a lovely sort of coffee table book full of wonderful pictures of the universe. And in the back cover is inserted, I think, your patent viewer. Is that right?
Indeed, my owl stereoscope. This is the light version of the owl stereoscope, but it comes free with the book, yeah. And that enables you to see all the illustrations in 3D. And they're astounding. I hope you've tried it, Michael.
I was trying it just before I came on air, and it is very, very remarkable. And where did these photographs come from? Are they yours?
No, this was a little bit of inspiration on my part. Not my own work. It's the work of J.P. Mezzavagno, who's an extraordinary astrophysicist who takes his own pictures and then applies the data which is already known about distances within his images and creates a stereoscopic pair from that. And it's a unique thing that he does. I've been fascinated by his work for quite a few years now, and I was able to put him together with David Eicher, who's one of the world's foremost authorities on nebulae. And I said, look, you two together have to be able to make the greatest book ever on what we call cosmic clouds, which are indeed massive clouds of dust and gas from which stars like our sun are created.
Changing the subject completely, we won't get away without mentioning Queen at all. There was recently the biopic. Was it called Bohemian Rhapsody? And
it was indeed.
You were a consultant on the movie. Were you happy with the way it turned out?
Yes, very happy in the end. It was a long project. I think 12 years from the time we first thought it would be a good idea to make a movie to the time when it finally came out. We didn't actually make it ourselves, but we assembled the team that made it. We wanted to make sure that we were a little bit at arm's length, because it's a difficult thing to make a movie in which you have a part. It's not about us, it's about Freddie. But, it was a sensitive area, and we wanted to make sure that it did Freddie justice, but at the same time didn't sort of get stupid about sort of deifying him or anything. We wanted to portray him as a human being. And the film was really about his perception of life. That was what it was meant to be. So I'm very pleased that it came out the way it did. I think it's all tribute to the whole team, especially to Rami, who played Freddie magnificently, I think. And Gwilym, who played me, did a damn good job as well, I got to say. But they were all wonderful, wonderful people. And what a great experience. We never dreamed that it would be a world-beating film like it was. I mean, it's bigger than Gone with the Wind. Insane. Bigger than a lot of the Star Wars films and whatever. So thrilling, really thrilling to have that experience.
It's a biopic where, you have the good feeling at the beginning. It's all going well, rise to fame, and then the long descent the other side. Is it inevitable that many careers in music are going to be like that?
Well, everything's different, I guess.
Yours has not been, in fairness.
No, well, Freddie would still have been walking the boards if he was still around. Of course, you know, he was in a fine state of fitness at Live Aid, as you can see with the footage. And that 1986, he was in magnificent form, but the disease got him in the end, and it was tragic to watch. It was terrible to be around because we knew we were helpless. And Freddie was just a little too early to benefit from that wonderful cocktail, which now is available and means that AIDS is no longer a death sentence if you have money, if you're in the Western world. You know, our Mercury Phoenix Trust charity provides money to all sorts of AIDS causes around the world because it's not a disease which is vanquished yet. You know, there are people dying in Africa of AIDS still. There's a whole generation of orphans because their parents died of AIDS. So it's still a cause which is very much alive and needy, although it's not talked about so much these days.
Brian May, thank you so much. You came on this evening not to talk so much about AIDS as to talk about breast and ovarian cancer, because you have a new track out today. It's called I'm a Woman, and we're going to play some more of it now. I'm a Woman with Brian May on guitar. Brian, I think you're still there. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's been a real privilege to talk to you.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure, Michael. Good luck with everything. Thank you for having it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Good night.